Dear students, welcome to the course on macroeconomic analysis and policy for the postgraduate students, which you are supposed to complete in 15 weeks, has been developed in a very logical and systematic manner. Macroeconomics is concerned with the analysis of the behavior of the economic system as a whole. It studies large aggregates such as aggregate employment, national product or national income of an economy and general price level. Unlike microeconomics that studies the behavior of individual economic agents in an economy such as a consumer, a firm, an industry, etc. It also explains the productive capacity and national income of a country over time. It deals with how does national income grow in the long run. In the first week, you will study the nature and scope of macroeconomics and the national income accounting. We will discuss about different schools of thought in macroeconomics and central macroeconomic issues like output, employment, economic growth, business cycles, etc. Then we shall learn about the measurement of national income in an economy. In the second week into our program, we shall study the external sector, that is the rest of the world. As macroeconomics deals with aggregate variables, external sector has a very important part to play. We will understand the concept of the exchange rate that helps the countries to trade with other nations and the balance of payments accounts, the accounts that capture a nation's receipts and payments with the rest of the world. In the third week, we shall define output in a country under simple Keynesian framework and the ISLM analysis. In this week, we will understand the determinants of demand in an economy in the short run. The ISLM analysis, which stands for Investment Saving Equilibrium Curve and the Liquidity Preference Money Supply Equilibrium Curve, respectively will be examined to understand the determination of aggregate demand in an economy in the short run. In the fourth week into our program, we shall delve into the concepts of monetary and fiscal policies and how these important policy frameworks can be used as economy opens up. As we know, the monetary policy is exercised by the central bank of a country, while the fiscal policy is used by the government, which both essentially affect the aggregate level of demand and output in an economy. Here in this week, we shall also understand the two policies using ISLM framework, both when the economy is closed and when the economy opens up. In the fifth week of this self-study plan, we will talk about the determination of interest rates in an open economy and in the closed economy. The financial markets in a nation is an important determination of a country's income. The modules this week will elucidate the concept of yield curve, which essentially shows the relationship between the yield on an asset and interest rates. We will also understand how expectations affect the yield curve. This week, we shall also study the relationship between interest rates and exchange rates, as capital mobility across nations is an important concept. In the sixth week, we shall study about the labor market and policy analysis in the medium and in the long run. Labor market analysis helps in the derivation of aggregate supply curve when wages and expectations of prices explain the positive relationship between the supply and prices. We shall further study the derivation of the aggregate demand curve with flexible prices. After studying the supply and the demand respectively, the equilibrium can be explained in the economy using aggregate supply and aggregate demand curves. In the 7th week, we shall study the persistent rise in price levels, the inflation rate and the unemployment rate. Trade-off between choosing a high unemployment rate or a high inflation rate in an economy will also be examined. In the 8th week, we shall work on revision and assessment. This will help you review your learning in the last 7 weeks. Moving into the 9th week, you will be taught the theories of consumption, investment and business cycles in an economy. Consumption and investment are both part of the private sector expenditure in the aggregate demand. We will here study different theories in consumption and investment, explaining how consumption behavior and investment behavior in an economy can be predicted. Also, we will study the different theories regarding business cycles that will help you understand how to predict future movement in the growth of an economy. In the 10th week, we shall study different growth theories. Economic growth is defined as persistent increase in the nation's national income. We will study theories explaining how growth is dependent on saving rate, the capital formation and the population growth. In the following 11th week, using open economy analysis, we shall study the management of current account deficits and exchange rates. In the 12th week, we shall talk about the expectation theory and the fiscal policy in India. We shall study how expectations, which simply means how individuals feel about the future value of the variables, impacts the financial markets. Two kinds of expectations, the adaptive and rational expectations, will be incorporated to understand this phenomenon. In the 13th week, we will study different changes in which money can be transmitted into the country. We will study the case of India using the monetary policy in detail. In the 14th week, we shall discuss about the financial crisis. The financial crisis is the havoc that renders the economy upside down. It is very difficult for a country to recover from the financial crisis. We shall study here the nature of the financial crisis and its implications for an economic system. In the last week of our study program, we will conclude by doing the revision of the topics done in the previous weeks, and an assessment will also be done to check your knowledge on the subject of macroeconomics.